How tough is it to be a cybersecurity criminal entrepreneur in 2021? That's the question that we're proposing here to both myself and the two smart guys on the team, Matt and George. So this discussion is completely open. It is improvisational, if you will. And instead of looking at cybersecurity from the defensive standpoint and the protection standpoint, we're actually talking about it from the perspective of a couple of business folks with tech knowledge who want to become cyber criminals. What's the incentive? How do we build the business model from a marketing, a sales, product and service delivery? It's kind of interesting. Different perspective. Hope you enjoy it. So, first of all, welcome everybody. We still got some additional folks who are coming in. Don't tell them what we've done so far. Let them just guess. So, this is going to be weird. A lot of you have been to Simplex-IT webinars before and all that kind of fun stuff. And we normally do the 30 by 30, where we do 30 minutes of presentation and open it up to everybody 30 minutes to have open discussion. This is going to be an odd presentation because we've invited some other folks to take part in it, and I'm going to let them kind of introduce themselves. But the bottom line is the topic is going to be really cool. And the topic is essentially going to be getting evil. And I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because we really don't have a PowerPoint on this. But what we're going to do is we're going to treat this as three guys getting together, and we want to be cyber criminals. And I want to set the ground rules here that Matt, George, and myself, we are not going to be our own selves using our knowledge, our influence, to be evil. But instead, if we had the technical knowledge, the business acumen, and wanted to start becoming either hot dog salespeople or cyber criminals, and then we're really going to approach it from an entrepreneurial standpoint. How can we make money? Because the reason being is because you hear all of the time, you have people discussing the whole issue of cybercrime and cybersecurity and all that from our perspective. Our perspective either being organizations who are trying to defend themselves or service organizations who are trying to defend their clients or the country or whatever. But we rarely think about it from the standpoint, we think about it from the damage that these folks do, but we don't think about it from the revenue, the benefit these guys do. And that's what we're going to do here. And Matt and George, I'd like you guys to just introduce yourselves and welcome to the group. And George, next time, bring enough hats for everybody.
I do have enough hats for everyone. Well, I guess I'll go first. My name is George with a J for today, Jorge, not George Bardissi. So that's my persona for today, right? Alter ego George. So yeah, George Bardissi. I actually have been around the MSP space for a long time and talked to a lot of MSPs all day long. I actually started an MSP in Philadelphia back in the early 2000s. I started BVoip out of that MSP, but ultimately today, I'm just technology guy, but bad technology guy. Jorge.
Nice. I feel ill-prepared on the backstory aspect of this, but that's okay. So I'm Matt Lee. I am in a bit of an interesting place in my life where I'm switching between careers after a decade in the same place. I was with the beginnings, thank you, George, of an MSP that started with 7 of us doing break-fix work and ultimately ended as I exited with 17,000 humans supported and 20,000 devices across 5 states. My primary role is talking about the cybersecurity aspects and where we need to go from a security perspective, but also in leading the charge on self-regulation in our industry, driving the needle on education in our industry around cybersecurity to help educate the practitioners, and came to meet Bob through actually attending one of his speeches in the earlier days in my career. He was much younger, it seemed, at the time, but that's okay. So anyways, now I am actually switching to go be at a vendor as the Senior Director of Security and Compliance for PAX 8. So in between and traveling with my family as the first time I've been able to do that without a pager, if you will, and always paying attention to some client environment situations. So it's been very awesome, but happy to be here. And my alter ego will be Mott. You can call it Matt if you want to be lazy Americans, but it has an umlaut. And so, it's Mott, but we're going to go with Matt as this one goes. So, and I will have the skills from a technical perspective. Yeah, I'll have the technical skills and try to lead some of our technical operations in our new company we're forming called Bad Beards Inc. So yeah.
Cool. I'm going to do one more question. Richard, can I ask you to, or I can do it, disable your camera because I want to keep the video. Thank you.
But I do love his setup. That guy has legit.
Oh, he's got,
I would love to go raid, like for real.
He and I go back way longer. Okay. He was teaching at one of the schools that we got some of our best interns from.
That's awesome.
So absolutely, he's got some cool stuff. So again, here's the setup. We're three guys. We want to be evil. We want to set up a company that makes money or creates value by cyber attacks. So, and we're going to basically approach it. I'm going to more from a business perspective and less from a technical, but here's the ground rules. We're not inventing any new technology. We're using stuff that's already out there, already proven, and we're a business. We've got to create value for our shareholders, our owners.
Mm-hmm.
And with that,
investors,
you got it. So here's the thing, like any business starting off, we don't have a ton of cash. We have some startup capital, but we don't have a ton.
Yep.
So what are we going to do?
I'll open it up, and Bob, I appreciate you kind of putting this all together and bringing George and I in on this. And we've been talking about it for a while. We've made jokes over beers, but now here we sit. We've funded our new company. We've started an actual legit company in Delaware, right? And we have our funds there. And one of the things I think we need to think about is most of our work has a lot of research about it, right? Like credit card data, cloned MasterCard with a pen, $15. Cloned Visa and a pen, 25. And so we have to cash flow pretty quick, right? And I think what we should talk about is how do we get enough cash flow going, right? So that we can actually start growing the operation and getting moving with that. And so I don't know, kind of what your thoughts are on that. And George, what your thoughts are, but I think we should at least have a way to have some fundamentals, right? Like we absolutely have to have a situation where we have credibility on the dark web to sell credit cards or usernames and passwords or ransomware type event things. And so we have to build credibility first in the dark web in order to actually have a way to sell our wares, right? We have to be able to sell these credit cards we gain or the data we steal. So,
okay. Well, I think we definitely need to come up with the, as any business would go, right? Like a short term, medium term, and big, and go after those big hairy wins, right? While we're doing everything.
Yeah, our rocks, if you will. Yeah.
Exactly. So from that aspect, I think it's important to say, hey, let's work backwards from the big guy, right? Like we know that the big guy is going to be, I mean, could we get another pipeline? I don't know. Maybe that's a big one, right? But a hospital or a school or
something
a government,
public,
right?
Right? Like it has to be something extremely public that we can get, attention from. The challenge is that if we can't get enough attention, we won't have the clout we need in order to get an affiliate fee, right? And so like we really need to be able to get in with an affiliate ransomware gang. And Bob, I don't know if you know this or not, but what we need is George and I aren't going to be able to write all the code for these attacks, right? Like to be able to do the ransomware and to do the exfiltration and those things. It's just not going to be easy to do in a way that we won't be easily discovered, right? We'll fail and the feds will get us. But in this conversation, what we want to do is be able to let one of the ransomware affiliate gangs, so we can put up about $20,000 and become an affiliate, right? And as we get to larger hits and larger ransoms, those numbers will go up. So we will have some cash flow kind of issues. But what you do is you pay this fee, and they let you use their ransomware. They let you use their stuff in a way that it's affiliated, like Soda Kanivi, right, is a popular one. And so we have to get enough clout to even be able to at the table and have a conversation with them. We also have to have the funding to continue doing this as we work on those rocks. So I'd say, George, I agree with you. Our primary rock is breaching a major organization in an operationally secure way, right? So that we don't get the jail or the missile, and be able to do that as one of our major goals this year, so that we can actually get into ransomware and start doing some really heavy ransomware stuff in an affiliate methodology on the dark web. So I'd say that's probably a rock we'd want to start with, Bob, but it is going to take funding. We need the affiliate fee. What they do is they make you put collateral up so that if you don't pay your obligations and their affiliate fee, they can take that, right? Like DarkSide, it's a great example after the ransomware was shut down and they were taken down by the U.S. Justice Department. they had the affiliate fee gobbled up. It was like $2 million, and it was gobbled up by all the sub vendors and parties they used to breach the organizations. So we'll want to make sure that we always manage that relationship, right?
100%. So what we need to do is, we think that it's going to take a little bit of extra work to get to a person who ultimately will get us into an organization, ultimately will get us to the
Yeah.
big hairy guy,
Yeah.
right? So that's going to be for Bob, because I know Bob is Mr. Business, and he's going to say, how long? When do we start making money,
Right.
right? So let's put the
Yeah.
business cap on. Let's say that's going to take us 90 to 120 days out, right? That's going to take a
Yep.
little bit more legwork
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
All right. In the meantime, we need to pay the light bill, right? We need to pay our deposit down on our ransomware as a service package and all of that other stuff, right? So
Yep.
like, what do we? So we need
Well,
to
we
get
need our
to the quick.
servers so that we can move those around. We need some of our structure, ability to roll those out quickly and destroy them quickly. Reason, Bob, is we want to hide. We don't want to be caught. And so in order to do that, we have to do a lot of bouncing around. We need to jump between different service providers. It's really popular right now to set up a lot of pseudo fake accounts and use those to get started with Microsoft on a credit and get started with
Exactly.
DigitalOcean and get started with AWS and right. And so we want to be able to be ready to do some spraying and praying, I think is what George is getting at, and be able to do some of the low level, high return, low risk kind of attacks while we also, try to get to the other individual. But yeah.
So the question I'm sure Bob's going to ask is, how long does it take for us to get our infrastructure and our packages, pre-built by, our big guys, right? That we're going to pay this affiliate
Couple
fee to.
weeks. I mean, our
Okay.
side, for the
All right.
beginning, at least the stage of our.
All right, guys. I'm going to interrupt you too, because here's my first thing. What's our product?
Yeah.
Okay, because you have that whole thing about we want to. Are we looking to steal? Are we looking to resell what we sold?
Two products, Bob. We have an immediate product, which is just an outflow sale of product on the dark web, right? So credit cards, credentials, PayPal brings like $1,000 if you get a PayPal account, right? Like it's bare minimum 100. And I've already done the research. Privacyaffairs.com, Dark Web Price Index 2020 actually kind of gives a lot of the data around what you can sell those for. So that's the first one. But then the main product is a direct consumer product, right? Where we are going to ransom their machines and systems so that they have to pay us, right? Because the other product, I've got to depend on a market. I have to depend on conditions. I have to depend on my own reputation, but it's also high flow, right? I can steal a credit card every day. I can steal a credential every day. So I can sell those in a high flow manner, but the real target is direct to consumer, where we breach Galonial pipeline and we realize that we've gotten enough to know that they can't control their OT without it, and we go ahead and get them to pay the ransom.
So let's put it in a way that you would understand, Bob, and your people would understand here. A bronze, gold, silver approach, right?
Yeah, fair.
Bronze is, I'm stealing your credit card, your personal information, your persona, right, online, so that I can just sell that to somebody who wants to buy nefarious things, and hopefully your credit card company covers that, fraudulent transaction.
There's no loss to our friends. They get it back on their bad transaction.
Exactly. Yeah. Gold is, I'm going to ransomware you, and you're going to have to pay to get your systems back unlocked because you didn't have any of your stuff backed up, and bad things happened, and we got over on you. And then platinum is going to be, oh, by the way, when we ransomwared you, we took that data before we pressed the button. So if you want your systems back and you don't want us to sell your data, your IP, your corporate private data out on the online on the dark web, you're going to have to pay us twice as much,
but
right?
We can also sell it. I mean, the point is that that's one of those that's a little different. Like we can't fail at decrypting. What I mean by that, Bob, is that sometimes if you run your ransomware multiple times from multiple locations, like 2 users get phished, you actually might have a situation where you cannot recover from that because mathematically it's been encrypted in different ways that you would need layered keys to fix it. So if we take a backup first, we can actually be good guys in this. And not only can we have a determined efficacy rate on disencryption, we can also offer to send them their data back. We can also then tell them we're going to extort them if they don't pay, which is part of the whole problem. But then also China is constantly looking, and so is Russia in a lot of ways, mostly China though, for any technology. If we have a better toothbrush, if we have a better plane part, if we have a better toilet seat, they want it. And so we can also sell the technology in a way that won't hurt our American citizens here, right? So we can be the good bad guys, but we can also help, line our pockets, if you will, from some of the Chinese exfil of the data. So if we do that in a very operationally secure way and are very OPSEC about what we do, we could probably make both ends of the pipe from a financing perspective, right? I mean, we have to be very careful on the second one.
So bronze, gold, silver, right? Bronze, just to recap, we're going to steal people's data, sell it so that other people can use it for buying things on their behalf.
Totally.
So, gold is going to be, hey, we're going to, do the good old fashioned ransomware. You need to pay us to get access back to your system. And then platinum is going to be, oh, by the way, you can either buy your data back from us, or we can go and turn around and sell it to somebody else. You choose.
Oh, so I see. Like we just moved that component out to the platinum package.
Correct.
And it's almost like a backup. We can actually market that as a backup that we sold these people, right? Like in a way, it's probably better than their service provider. It failed. We were able to get past it.
So let me understand. So when we talk about this bronze, platinum, gold, or whatever, we're really talking about our product offering and our delivery of those products.
Exactly.
Okay. And when we talk about the bronze, that's going to be something that's going to be, I'm always about the pipeline. All right.
Yep.
So I want to know that whatever we set up, and this gets back to your infrastructure question, Matt, and I want to get back to that, but it gets back to that. How much of a setup do we have to do in order to start creating that pipeline? And it sounds like for the bronze, that's the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, silver. No, let's okay. Hold on, guys. Let's be good about our jobs from the beginning. I don't want to be that guy. But even for the silver, we need to do it in an operationally secure way. I don't want that breadcrumb to be the reason they come back and find out that Mott and George and Bob are involved in this as a human, as a real human. I don't want that translation, if that makes sense, right? So I think you have to have a bit of an infrastructural investment. I think we should do it with infrastructure as code, right? Where you kind of make it where it always recreates itself. We can move quickly to another organization. Some of the challenges we see with some of like the more politicized things of that AWS shut them off. Well, if they'd set themselves up in a way that they could just move that code somewhere else, they could have just gone to another service provider. So we need to do that. And that takes probably hiring some people off of Fiverr. I would probably say just a couple people. We don't need to tell them what they're working on. I only need them to work on building me a Linux architecture, right, that I can spin up somewhere.
Okay, two questions then, because we've got some Phantom investors here. Okay. And one,
I've been seeing some of their comments in the
Brent.
Okay.
Not his real
Brent,
name.
the Phantom investor.
Brent, the Phantom investor. Would it make sense for us to go try to find someone at an MSP or even working in an IT security firm and turn them over to the dark side?
Opposed to just I'll be the OPSEC jerk and say, I think that early on in our stage here, when we don't have a lot of the defensibility and capital to actually fight and do the things we need to do to protect ourselves as an organization, it would probably be inadvisable for us to do it that way. I would be more akin to keeping people in the dark on small componentized projects like the government would do around security. But yeah, if you got a credential from an MSP, the problem is you have really quick attribution, right? Mm-hmm. It's this guy, and we can look at cell phone records and contact and communication, and here's the guy they talk to. So I don't want that risk now. But yeah, as we get longer in and we have burnable assets and people that we can kind of use as expensed assets for those communications, it's probably a different conversation. But that's just my vote now.
Yeah. So no, the more people that are involved that actually know what's going on, the harder it is to keep the top on everything, right? So at the end of the day, I don't mind making that person a scapegoat unknowingly and let the good guys that are trying to find us go after that person as a way to give us the time to get out of Dodge, right? But I don't necessarily need that internal guy to be the guy that's going to be part of the team.
Yeah, right. And that to me is part of the challenge is that if you are looking for it, and especially with us having a startup, if we're going to go out and find that MSP, because remember, it wasn't too long ago where we really talked about the internal risk was greater than the external risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We used to talk about most cybercrime happens from internal actors.
No, it still does. There was a report yesterday that said that last year almost every company had an insider threat in some form or fashion.
Okay.
Whether it's the guy leaking and taking files.
I was careless, but I'm actually doing.
No, I'm actually a threat actor inside your organization. I stole your company list. I made away with your receivables understanding. Whatever that is. But and then there's the more negative. But I think what you're getting to and I'm getting to is it's the asking that gets you executed. And I think the problem is, unless you're 100% hitter and you get the first one that says yes, and even then you still have your OPSEC challenges, I don't think we go that way. It's easier to trick someone out of credentials and make them an idiot than it is to let them in on.
And I'll also say it's less challenging or less risky
less costly
from our standpoint.
We don't have to pay
because anything. If we have somebody who's local on-prem who's causing some of the challenges, it's going to be easier for them to be discovered and for that then to lead to us.
Well,
but to their point. No, go ahead, George.
You know how this works, right? I mean, or we all have seen the movies. How about that, right?
Sure.
when you're they got all these interrogation tactics, right? And they're going to look into your past and they're going to look into your online history.
It's not hard to
If it
correlate.
takes them longer to try and have to go, like I just watched it's on Netflix. It's called Heist. You know, where there was 3 different crimes. One was called Pappygate, where these guys worked inside the distillery for where they make Pappy Van Winkle, that really expensive alcohol in Kentucky. And the guy was literally like shifting bottles out, and he was getting like 4, 5, 10 grand a bottle, right? And so they had to interview all 150 employees like that work on the floor in this distillery. Yeah. And like that takes a long time. I'm gone by the time they even get to that, right? Like let them go fish.
Well, and the point is, here's what we do. Like, if we're going to talk about the rock, like if we really want to break down what is it going to be like to either hit an MSP, which I agree with our shadow investor on that one, Mr. This person, in the sense that an MSP is a force multiplier. If I can breach an MSP and they don't have the proper things in place to stop the expansion of what I do, then yeah, I would rather get 100 companies, 1,000 companies. But our operation security better be really good, because that is going to draw the FBI today, right? I'm very heavily involved in that conversation.
Absolutely. So, and then we have another phantom investor. We'll call
her.
I
wanted to add one more thing, because all we have to do to get that person is find the MSP. I could kind of talk about what George was saying. Find the MSP. I'm going to set up a shadow LinkedIn account and kind of mirror some of the things that I have in a way that can't be traced back to me easily. And then I'm going to go find them. Find what they like, track what they talk about, look at what they do, and then send something very crafted to that individual and hope that they don't have MFA, they don't have separations of duty, those kind of things. So, yeah, it's not that hard.
It could be as simple as, if you are targeting that engineer or that technician within the MSP, all you may need to do is get their Facebook, spoof.
Done. Because they use the same password everywhere, right?
Yeah, their Bandanga or something like that.
That to me is the big point. From our perspective, looking at it externally, it would be easier to take advantage of a sloppy MSP employee,
and there's 1,000
to turn an evil MSP employee.
100%. Yeah,
and no risk from a risk standpoint, and from a return standpoint.
Yeah. And if we're smart, what we can do, and I don't want to get off topic, and you had another investor comment, but we could go look at insurance policies and what the insurance current rates and what they'll support are, so that we can actually dig into what our crafted ransoms need to be, so that they're actually set appropriately. We get a quick payment and we can actually get out of Dodge really quickly, right? So,
and that's our third comment from our phantom investors. But I want to get to the second one first.
Okay.
And that's Ann was asking, again, not a real name. Whether or not we have to focus on selling certain like bronze packages first in order to generate the cash flow, so that we can really focus on the big paydays. Because let's face it, that's what businesses do when you start off. You go for the low-hanging fruit. You go for you want the A clients, but you got to settle for the C clients. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We want to pay the light bill first, so that we can actually build ourselves up. But hey, listen. The same tactics that we use for the bronze, right? We're going to lift your PayPal account. We're going to lift your credit card, debit card, whatever. It may be that simple to start the process to get into
just
that big guy.
Convert from silver to bronze to platinum. I mean,
exactly.
Or bronze to platinum and gold.
Talk about the upsell opportunity. I may get your personal stuff first, and then I find out that you work for a really big company, and then we have to decide, right?
Yeah.
What is the sweet spot? Right, what is the sweet spot?
AAA Emergency Road Service membership cards are going for $70 right now.
Okay, there you go.
LinkedIn followers, $10. If you can get in malware, there's really a lot of paths here, and they all kind of, like you said, they lead right into silver, right? In the sense that if you start with bronze and get credentials, I can use maybe browser session tokens to be in as you in your MSP stuff. If you use a home device for that access. I can use attack surfaces there to escalate and really grow the client base inside from a profitability.
But the good part is, we're going to sell a batch of credit card, PayPal, whatever, right? Some sort of financial sell, right? So we can get $1,000 a piece. That sounds about good.
I can do that for about $800. If you give me about $800 to get started with the AWS infrastructure and get the Fiverr job done for building the Linux instances for my Kali boxes, then I can make a Docker container for the Kali instance and spin those up and use them to attack and just move them around. And we'll just get a lot of startup credits at places, right, on new accounts and new features.
And when you go do that Fiverr spend, you're also going to have somebody make like a really good Office 365 dupe, not like the ones that's missed
I'm actually
right?
We want to make it look good. Yeah, I'm gonna actually go buy some identities on the dark web and kind of get that as a transactor started, because we do have to be transactors in the environment. For us to get trust. And so I'll probably buy some of these things I need now and start the actual accounts, like really start some fictitious stuff, so that we can actually have really effective landing zones for these campaigns.
Okay, so here's what I'm hearing is there's a bunch of relatively low-hanging fruit we can do for the
Yeah,
impersonating 365, stealing these credentials, buying
easy.
actually mailing lists for the
Yeah,
equivalent.
no, for sure.
So we can
Yeah.
go out and do that for, well, let's just say we got $10,000 in seed money. We could create some level of infrastructure.
Yep.
Where do we want to be operating out of? Because we don't
Delaware,
necessarily, you're
probably.
talking about incorporating in Delaware, all of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of fun stuff.
yeah.
But there may be other countries that have a better incentive for us to be operating out of. And plus, we're virtual, so technically the hardware can be anywhere. Let's
Well,
talk for a second on that.
we could hire an attorney just for trying to understand that aspect of where, from a criminal perspective, and just basically say, come up with a ruse of, we're doing something on the edge of like Uber when they started, right? That was a lot of lawyers, right? Because they said,
Right.
hey, I'm doing something illegal. Am I okay?
Well,
And so I think what
hold
we do
on.
is,
I'm going to
yeah.
simplify that for you. There's like a handful of countries in the world that don't extradite the United States, right?
But it's more complex than the extradition aspect, right? Because it's now, as you saw January, February, and then escalating recently, there is potential you could get a missile in the window if they find identity and location. So there is some aspects of things that wouldn't be extraditory, but would be in some regards, kind of a way that they could actually make action from a kinetic perspective.
As a
So
side note to the missile in the window, George, Matt, and I talked. We're going to put the server in your home.
yeah, the server's in your house, by the way. Yeah, all the
I don't
Tor
know.
exit notes. Yeah, no,
But
but we will use Tor. Tor is designed, Bob, just for your knowledge, by DARPA and ultimately U.S. Navy implemented. But
yeah,
and if I'm a little wrong on that one, someone can punch me in the throat. But ultimately, Tor is a way, kind of like what bad guys already create with bots. Tor is a way that people kind of select to be bots and allow you to exit from their location on a random basis and kind of mix the packets around. I mean, it was a way to kind of hide traffic globally inside of a very public network space. And so
right.
that's essentially what the dark web is.
If there's a server in my house, it's going to be in front of these hot dogs in the freezer.
Yeah, that's probably where it needs to be.
Okay, just tell me.
But anyways,
Cool. So we have, and again, and this one probably is a fake name. We have Sales who wants to know whether we would pay for a ransomware insurance company's list of clients and software they're using. But I want to extend that a little bit. Would we pay, and I think we've already touched on this, but would we pay for intelligence of any kind that gave us
yeah,
an idea of
anonymously.
what defense was already set up?
Yeah, no doubt. 100%. And the challenge is, and unfortunately to their point, the people that have those lists were right now believed to be nation state players, and they're not showing up on the dark web. So they won't be commercialized anytime soon. But yeah, I do
But
believe
but
there have been
but it's
breaches
good.
of
It's
insurance companies.
important on
Yeah.
that thought though, right? If the average cyber insurance policy is $1 million,
Sure.
we don't need to go really big in order to get
Yeah, we
that,
can't
that
shoot for
policy to
5
cash.
million. We need
Yeah.
999,999 if we want to cut them a deal, and maybe we can get her down to. You know what though? Honestly, if we made it 900,000 out of that million, that gives them the incident response costs, and then there's no client cost out of pocket.
So in other words, what we're going to do is we're actually going to calculate the amount of money we want
Yeah,
based on the pain.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We
Okay,
want to make it
let's
painless
go
for
into
them
that a
to.
little bit because I think that's important to understand.
No, it's a simple concept, George. If you want to pop into it, and I'll clean
Well,
up. But
it's like value based selling, right? I mean, basically we're like, oh well, how much is this worth to you? And then we figure out what the median of that answer is, and then that's how we go after the pain level, right? That's how we figure
yeah,
out the sweet
but
spot to
it's more
figure out
nuanced
that.
than that. That's like
Okay,
a hammer. This is more like a scalpel. So
sure.
what I understand is if you get an incident response, you have a couple things that happen. Your IT company likely has some holdouts and says we won't
For,
do
for,
those
for
all for
those
free.
of you, not me, of course, but for other people, what is an incident response?
Yeah. So an incident response is essentially when you have an incident like me getting into your systems and ransoming you. You
Okay.
have certain disclosure requirements, your insurance. If they do have insurance, they always will do a response, meaning I don't want to leave them in your organization. I don't want to leave them, still owning your company. If I'm going to insure this, damn it, I'm going to limit my loss, which means I'm bringing in my company. So what
Mm-hmm.
we want to do is make sure there's enough room for the $25,000 in incident response. Maybe their IT company is going to bill them another $20,000 or $30,000 to be involved because they've held exclusions in that space, right? If it's an incident like that. So you have that. And then we also want our ransom. So if we know there's $1 million policy, we have to actually make sure that we have enough so that they have the incident response, so they don't have a
Mm-hmm.
$25,000 cash out of their pocket, and their IT company so they pay their bills and stay functional. Everything's great. So we want to walk away with them feeling like they got value, that they got backup, their insurance paid out, They didn't lose their company. They were able to save face. They had companies saying it wasn't them. It was quote unquote sophisticated threat actors, right? And so we want to make sure that we scope our payments so that they're inclusatory of all of those things, so that the pain is so low that the insurance
They're
companies
just going to pay
say,
it out.
pay the ransom. Yeah, it's
They're just going to
inside our
pay it
policy
out.
limits. Yeah.
And
So in
it's
the
small
beginning,
enough. Hold on, it's small enough that the FBI and the Homeland Security and all those cyber agencies are going to be like, well, it's under $1 million. We got bigger fish to fry, and they may not even have time to look for it.
No joke. I actually know in this fake persona, a person that tried to report that when those events were happening in that Jopea incident the other day, and the FBI was like, nah, it doesn't matter. It's just we see these all the time. And so I think then very quickly it became, no, we see a lot of them all at once. This is really bad. But no, I asked the question coming in about, is $1 million the magic number? It depends on policy limits. I want the most I can get. This is a maximization curve. So I really want to go do the research of the insurance companies are out there, or somebody brilliantly on our board said, maybe we can buy a list. As those become available, I want the intelligence, right? We actually should have a dedicated role to just gathering intelligence, Bob, and making sure we're scoping.
I would say if like I said, I think from my experience, the small business insurance carrier, the general liability, professional liability guy, like 5 years ago when they popped up and they're like, hey, everybody should add this addendum, right? Give
here's the one that your carrier gets. In fact, you're just talking about platinum. Wait a minute, George. If we got one MSP's list that all sold the same insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
And went for those limits every time and made sure there wasn't some grander limit on the MSP, then we ultimately escalate into attacking that MSP after exhausting him, right? And we know that's the one. I mean, that's our raison d'etre, I suppose, on that one or whatever. But
so let me give a parallel on that, or a simple thing like that.
Oh, that's a good one.
A company that does asphalt, that puts out asphalts for parking lots and driveways and all of that kind of fun stuff.
Sure.
They go and they sell to a fast food place. And they figure out a great way to sell to fast food place, and they're in a neighborhood or an area that has 20 different fast food places. They can now go to every one of those 20 organizations with the same package, the same offering, same, and their delivering of that offering the cost become minimal because it's the same thing over and over again. So we're saying the same thing here.
Yeah.
But from a criminal standpoint.
It's exactly right.
Right, because we know how to do the drive-through and make sure that traffic flow is not interrupted. We know how to put down the asphalt in a way that it'll dry when it's low customer peak, and we know how to pay our people appropriately to be there. 100%, that parallel makes sense, Bob, in the sense that if we can repeat it, we can get better at it. We can get more operationally secure each time. We can start to do this in a way that eventually we'll just burn the name we built in Delaware and build another one and be somebody else. I mean, that's exactly what all the big boys are doing. And so it's the knowledge and the repetition of what we're doing, and also building it in an infrastructure as code methodology that we can keep scaling this out, and allows us to actually maintain much tighter operational security lines, because we're scripting so much of this in a way that it can be inspected by our QA side first.
We could probably do the whole thing with 3 people. We could have one person handling the infrastructure, the moving around of the code, the creating of the payload, right? Of course, we're going to borrow some of that when we pay our affiliate fee, right? They're going to give us our ransomware as a service packages, right?
You got to stamp though and make sure. That's the other thing though, because those platforms develop, and we also need to stay on top of making sure we're on the right platform for our ransomware delivery service, right?
Sure. So the second person is going to be like a quasi developer, right? He's going to be working on the other side from the infrastructure as a service guy or girl, and he's going to be, or he or she is going to be, basically the person that's getting crafty, right? Making it look right, making it look pretty. I call it the polished person, right? And then the last person on the mix is going to be a combination of your researcher, right? The person that goes to figure out who to target, and then also is the person that will be your ransomware negotiator on the bad guy side.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, 3 people will do the whole thing.
But these are 3 people who are going to be paid very well.
Well, we'll split it. We're gonna split it 3 ways. Oh, but we have investors, right? So we got to make sure we
got investors and all that kind of fun. But the thing is that because it's a business, we've got to have the cash flow that's coming out that keeps us all, getting enough output from it.
We can also control some of our costs with making sure that our anonymous payment systems, our Bitcoin products, are invested properly in between, and so we could probably do well by getting some cryptocurrency exchange places that are outside the U.S. that are outside of the new U.S. Justice Department's reach that we seem to see. I don't know if you knew that, Bob, but they stole DarkSide's money by actually just attacking with a piece of paper from the DOJ the cryptocurrency wallet company that held their wallet, and just said, "I got it's fine now. Thanks. See ya. Have a nice day." So we need to be sure that we pay attention to the legal landscape. So I don't think 3 is right. I think if we are going to do this right, we barely survive by doing silver, bronze, and gold. But if we can't scale this, just like I've scaled an MSP before, right?
Right.
Fictitiously. If we can't scale this, we'll never have a person that just goes and does advocacy for us, right? Someone that's out there as a very public figure saying, no, we're the good guys. And having the ability to have a
Well,
QA department that looks our code. So
but
I think we do this with
let's
80
be
people.
80. Well, but listen, I mean,
Yeah.
one successful attack is 900,000, right? We said right underneath that $1 million
That
mark,
runs
right?
most of those humans for, at least a quarter. I mean, it's getting
So
pretty close.
even if you did one a month, you're a $12 million organization. If you did one a week, one a day, right? I mean, it just.
Yeah, but how many sales department meetings do we have that talk about this whole thing? I mean, bottom line is we have to have a pipeline. We have to have closing percentages. And we basically have to have these opportunities that we have some kind of idea ahead of time. Here's the cost.
Here's the curve. Yeah.
Right.
But you also have to have like, what do you call it? Like mailbox money, right? Like I'm a big fan of creating mailbox money. And some of those examples would be like, one of the things I just thought of, and this comes into why we should have an R&D department, is that I could go take QR codes and just generic ones and find restaurants that aren't printing with like fancy logos in their QR, just tape them over. And here's the cool technology. I won't get too deep in it. But if I go and do that and everybody scans that with their phone, I have a system that takes that as a URL shortener, and it actually says what OS are they on, which will indicate what vulnerabilities are available. And per different OSs, I can react differently and give different malware payloads. So I could just scrape people that are looking at a menu in the restaurant and add $1,000 a week or $2,000 a week in credit cards and phone credentials and stolen LastPass information inside their phone and things like that by exploiting capabilities inside Android and iOS in a different way, right? So don't forget about laying out those hooks and trolling, if you will, in some of those passive methodologies. Other good example are misspelled website squatting, buying ads with Google ad revenue, like I think George was telling me earlier.
Dude, you can absolutely put ads on legitimate websites that have bad payloads behind them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
all day. I mean, so we could actually build a really quick revenue stream, probably in about 3 months of work, that's enough to sustain the real investment if we had 20 or 30,000 in capital to fund the humans I need to make sure that we don't step on ourselves early, because we're going to go to jail or we're going to get killed. And the point is if we don't think about those things from the very beginning, it's always those times that kill you. And so it's one where you can't fake it till you make it. And I think we need to invest early on that. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I do think if we put in
that first $900,000 payout.
That certainly makes all much better after I spent $200 to make 900,000, right? Like, yeah.
So I'm not even worried about that. We can get that first $1 million payout in probably the first month of operation.
Yeah, for sure.
And the key thing, though, and I'm going to pull out a character here for a moment, is that this is your standard 3 guys talking about starting a business. This is about talking about product development, about marketing, about sales, about service, about generating demand or capturing demand that's already
legal risk and environment.
Exactly. You could change just a few words on this and you'd be talking about something that every entrepreneur has had conversations about.
He said you can also add a QR code for $5 coupon. Okay, yeah, you're right.
And what you do, that's actually 100% correct. I'll tangentialize back in character on this and maybe we can switch off to whatever. But the point is you can actually take that $5 and now craft it for George. If I made a Chick-fil-A bonus 100 points coupon that gives him an extra 100 points, and I'd have to scope that to what's appropriate in his app, but it would go on his 151,872 points that he's already got and add more. And so I would be much better chance of getting George when Matt Lee would go, I don't care. I'm not ordering Chick-fil-A. I'm gluten insensitive, you jerk. Right? Like, yeah. So, I mean, target there, it's outside your camera frame, but yeah, 100%. I know that's your Chick-fil-A app you're showing. But the point is that that's what I would need to find out. That's how I would get at the right person with the right crafted package and payload when I want to be targeted. But I can also lay out a bunch of fishing hooks and stupid people hook their cheeks on it. Right? I mean, that's the reality of it.
So if we're shooting for this, like think about it. Let's say you did $1 to $5 million, $900,000 payouts per month on just small business easy target, right? We're still working towards our hospital system, our government, local state government, our school system, right? And that's the guy. Yeah, that's the guy that's going to pay out exponentially. No,
I think you guys are missing the point here, guys. Here's how we get to the big fish. Like if we wanted to go for one target keynote person, our platinum.
Yeah.
Our platinum would actually be done in BEC compromised chains.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go briefly into this, Bob, but what I would do is I would find the first person I want to attack, or maybe I would just spray and pray and hope to get a bunch of different companies like George and I are talking about, that upgrading the silver or the bronze.
Right.
But what you do is you get in, and once you get into that domain, once you compromise Sally or Bill or Johnny or whoever it might be, you go buy a domain that looks just like theirs. So if this was Simplex-IT, I would just use a lowercase L instead of capital
IT
I.
or something. Yeah.
Well, it'd be -LT, and it would look like a capital I, and you wouldn't delineate the thing in your eyeballs. And so I would then set up an email domain, and I would start sending out messages. I would just copy the email from your account that I compromised into another account that I had control of, set some rules up, and then I would just get your list of who your AR people are. And in this case, we will pretend like it's Bob. Then I'll get the people that owe you money, and I'll go compromise them. I'll get them to pay me so we can make some money during that, right? I'll steal a wire transfer methodology, or, right, we'll get in and actually have them tricked into paying me instead of you. But then as we go down the chain, I'll get the exponentialization of A squared, B squared, and C squared. And so as I get more of those, we'll find a big enough company that was in an AR for some jackass school district, and then we'll be able to get that school district in a very loud and public way and take out school for 3 weeks, right? And we'll be able to enumerate enough C squareds and B squareds that we find the school district that doesn't have backups. And that is what will cost us a lot of money. It's once we start getting into trying to find the right victim for us from a publicity perspective, we'll need to invest in the enumeration aspects inside those organizations, right? What I mean by that is I got to go poke around. I got to find the stupid. I got to find the people that
it's a long play. Yeah, it's a long play. We're not just looking for the easy ones. But there is something to be said for, Matt, like you said earlier.
I'll do that part. I will do the headhunt on the big fish. I don't mind taking.
But there's something to be said for, I don't want it to be so big that it's in every news headline that that the big guns are coming after me either.
Yeah. Or we got a damn title not sick, right? Like that would be almost like we want to pop our collars at them, But we'll see. We'll see where we get to.
Exactly. Which is similar again to what other organizations follow. They don't want to go after something that will make the big players because nobody is completely unique.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that our ocean stays as blue as possible for as long as possible.
Yeah,
so
true story.
We can sit back and we can basically say, okay, there is for the short term, we're going to come up with something that's going to have a relatively decent amount of starter funds that we've already allocated, we've already accumulated that, so we can get going. We should be able to create some cash flow from that then allows us to do some additional investment. And we're not, again, I want to stress, we're not inventing anything new.
Correct.
We are not creating anything new.
We don't want to be the coders, right? I want to just put together existing commodity capabilities and use them, because right now, Bob, if I had to do a market analysis, 85% of every company I've ever talked to has cut the corners and has not chosen to invest in themselves. And it's not always money, right? It's time, it's impact to their organization. And so I think that the bell curve says about 85% of the people we're going to target will be easy, slim pickings, that we can be choosy about it, right? There's so much market, there's so much greenfield opportunity that we don't have to get risky. We can
it could just be, I blue in the face. We've all heard this one, but it's like, well, if I'm going after everybody's personal passwords, which I know they're using for their work passwords, all I need is somebody who doesn't have multi-factor turned on. Yep. That's it. That's my low-hanging fruit, and that's what 8 out of 10 people.
Don't mean that. I can just steal an OAuth 2 token. I can trick them into go to a poison website, steal the token. As long as they have no validity set, I can be them anywhere I want to be for the next 30 days or so. Easy.
And relatively speaking, the cost for failure, what I mean by failure, the cost for, because we're, at least to start with, we're pretty much automating our attacks, our marketing. So our cost is just simply a lower conversion rate.
Correct.
That's then getting more efficient at it. And as we get scale, we'll negotiate better pricing, right?
Right.
So absolutely. As we get other forms of compromise, we can use some of those trusted computing bases that we've compromised as our attack points, right? So now we can make company A be the one that attacked company B, not us, right? And we can use their egression, their companies, their user people, their sessions, right? So I think that's actually also something we can do, is try to spread the love through those companies.
So there's a race that's going on, essentially, and let's just take your 85% there. So as companies become more and more security aware, which is kind of the point of
it's happening a lot.
And you're seeing that. So instead of 85% being not ready, it's going to be 80, it's going to be 75, it's going to be 70. Yeah. But at the same time, we are getting smarter. We, the bad guys. So it's going to be harder to be that prepared company because
Well,
we're getting smarter, we're getting more sophisticated, all that kind of fun stuff.
yeah,
Well,
and to our investors' point. Oh, go ahead, George.
I was going to say, like, over time, right? Like you said, they'll get more and more mature. Right now, we're talking about probably quadruple level growth, right? I
Yeah,
mean, like, it's so easy. Like,
Should
you
be.
basically are
but it
swimming in
needs
an
to
ocean.
stay in. We need to reinvest, right? Like one of the examples is if
But
you go rob a bank.
we can reinvest. We can reinvest legitimately, right? You said, hey, just
Yeah,
move
true, true.
move, split up your cryptocurrency and just let the market go.
Yeah, man. Well, and also though, to the point when I was talking about the 80 individuals, I think we ultimately would need. We actually need some legal research side of things that can be done in a more discreet manner, right? In a country that doesn't care about these things. Because if we hire people in Russia, I mean, they're kind of predilected to doing a lot of these things in some of the former Eastern Bloc countries, no problem. And we can have people looking at, like, a great example. If you rob a bank, 10 years in jail. Yeah, 15, something like that. If you steal an ATM, it's a property crime. It's a property crime. So if we can find ways to do the property crimes and make enough money at margin and at scale and not put ourselves at risk from a legal perspective, why would we?
Well,
Right?
and that
And so
comes
those are the
back to
changes
that.
we need to be better at.
Well, that comes back to the profile, right? Like, I don't want to be the guy in the news saying that I hit 1,500 companies, right? I want to be
Yeah,
right underneath of those guys because they're
yeah.
the people that can take all the attention.
Yeah, I think this is a short-lived, guys. We're 3 to 5 years. I mean, I think as the United States and other governments start kind of wising up and enforcing, so I think we have to look at a really rapid scale to market. Like I think we need to reinvest most funds. I don't think we take out a whole lot as we start, and we bootstrap this in and just pay investors as the primary methodology. But I think we let ours rise so that we can keep scaling this before we run out of rope.
Well,
On that.
as long as our bank account is effectively constantly growing cryptocurrency, I don't see how we lose unless the
I get
entire
it.
coin goes out.
Yeah, true story, true
But
story.
here's the thing I would say is that right now the strategies that are being used publicly, with a couple of exceptions, which I'll get to, but right now most of the strategies are to lower the risk. So to basically make it tougher for us to succeed, however you want to define that,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
is not a disincentive to us.
No, it
It's
just means
just
we
an
have to do more
increase of
of it at a
operating
lower interest.
costs and
Yeah,
a lower conversion rate. That's
yeah, drop in
business,
efficacy.
not a
Yeah,
problem. It's when they start, and by they I mean business, governments, everybody. When the what we'll call the good guys now, when they start attacking the business model itself,
yep.
when they start the missile in George's room, which I'll feel bad about.
I would too. It really hurt my heart, George. I love you with all of my heart.
Hey,
Uh,
I'm gonna
and
come
my
back.
appendix is very keen on you.
I was looking for an eye, but I'm.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing is that until there actually becomes threats to the business model,
Hmm.
Yeah.
however you want to define it, where it no longer makes financial sense, it basically is going to be a constant, an ongoing battle of fighting the odds and fighting the probabilities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we're financially incentivized, the bad guys, we're financially incentivized to come up with new ways to take advantage of new techniques, and for people who come up with the techniques to sell them to us, guys like us.
Yeah.
Well, it's always a numbers game. The
Yeah, but
difference
that's
is,
silly. You're oversimplifying, Bob. I'm sorry. I'll be the negative one on here. No, just today, Oracle released 462 patches, of which 42 of those were level 10 CVSS scores, maximum perfect score, exploitability value. We can stay so on the edge of every one of these announcements that that their people will be so slow to implement the fixes, or they don't have the cost, or they didn't pay for the new Sonic wall, so they can't do this. That all I have to do is wait for the news to come out, and we can be good right now. Current good, the best winner in our game. 5 minutes within the discussion of Hafnium and China
Yep.
Chopper was enumerating systems. If we could get into a sub 5 minute range or even in the sub 30 minute range, we're going to make so much money off of just current events. Just
well,
current event
because it
attack.
takes people time to patch. That's what
Yep.
you're saying.
Companies
Absolutely.
won't let them. The companies say, I can't go out and turn off my systems right now. I don't want to lose money. Great. It's going to come. And so I
No, no,
think
no,
that's our
no. I
best
get,
thing.
I get that part, but what I'm saying is that's still going to be significantly less than what we have now.
I hope.
Because the
At
lazy
least that's the good
hackers, the
guy, Matt.
lazy bad
Sorry, I let
guys,
that sneak out of character. Yeah.
the lazy bad guys will basically be out of the game then.
Yeah, so that's what he said. It's a 3 to 5 year game. But if we were averaging, let's be conservative, right? Let's say we were
20
bringing
million a
in
year.
Yeah.
Okay, $20 million a year for 5 years. It's $100 million. We could, at that point, we would be making money off the legitimate markets and
Yeah.
be okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we just find a legitimized country and find ways to start laundering that, right? Like as we get better and learn. But yeah, I think that all comes from growing the silver package and bronze package first. So
And from the ghost investor Brent, I have the most hair follicles.
oh, that's a true story. That at
I
least
don't
active
think I
hair
have the
follicles,
most hair.
activated hair follicles. We'll call it that.
If you lay the hair end to end, I have a feeling
Awesome.
that George would lose. Let's just go.
Yeah, George would. Unless he's like rocking some serious armpit length, then yeah, he probably.
No, I can't say that I am. But hey, there was an afro up here at one point, so
Yeah.
I could turn that back on, right? I'll go see
Oh,
the
come
right
on.
guy.
Could you really? Because I
Well,
can't.
I'm gonna take our earnings. I'm gonna take my part. I'm gonna go
Oh,
see a
okay.
guy. Okay,
Yeah,
so
there's always a guy. Yeah, I get
yeah.
it.
So we've got about 10 minutes left, and I know we kind of moved away from the 30 by 30 concept, but quite honestly, this conversation I think was great. But I do want to leave a little bit more open for any more Phantom investors who have any questions. Just put them in the chat for now. And we are going to post the whole 60-minute thing. So normally we only post the first 30 minutes. And George, there was actually, were you able to do the cross broadcast or
Yep.
whatever?
Yeah, so I actually have Darren, who's one of our pretty consistent guys here on the other side.
Shadow
He says,
investor.
Yeah, Darren Shadow Investor says, no way 3 to 5 years. I give you 12 months at most. Hey, if it's 12 months at a two, if we do two $1 million policy cash outs a month, well, then in 12 months I did $25 million.
And you know what? If it turns out he's right, then I guess we could set an investment schedule for him on 2 years and just tell him what that would look like, and then we'll
Right.
continue on.
Right. He
So,
could have a
down
lower
for that.
investment, right? And then we'll cash
Yeah.
him out early.
We just
And the
wouldn't make it
challenge on that
scary.
is also, is that because in 12 months we have to go dark or go out of business, or in 12 months the market has dried up? Because those are
Now,
two
if he
very,
believes
very
that,
different.
then I think he probably and I need to sit down and have a drink.
Yeah.
He said, please transfer me your Chick-fil-A points before the missile hits.
That's awesome.
For those of you who do not know George, George is legendary. As I gotta hope he's a Chick-fil-A hacker.
Yeah.
So he's actually accumulated these points.
Funny enough, Darren has more than I do. Darren just cracked 80,000 points.
Oh, Lord Jeebus. Oh, man.
Now I have something to aspire to. I got to work
George,
hard.
if you're in town, my son now works at Chick-fil-A, and I have it on good authority. He gets one sandwich every 6 hours, free, legit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man.
And
Wow.
Sales also points out, again, Sales, that all you got to do is change the name and update the VPN. It's a little more complicated than that, but absolutely disperse and reorganize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that is the point, is that we would just try to never expose the real identities of our corporate aspect and maintain, as much anonymity as possible. I mean, we're going to fail. They always do. But if you do this right and you do it low key enough, then if the 12-month attribution was us failing, then I don't think I'm very good as an operations guy. And I'll apologize personally from my jail cell. But I think we can do this for at least 3 to 5 years with enough reinvents. And we might have some, panic moments where we've got to spend some money and blow away the world. But, once you have the reputation and kind of the ability to disappear, then there's just not much there to stop us. It's all built on the fact that as a country we believe in freedom of speech and we believe in the protections of what we do. And so there's a lot of ways for me to hide in those things. I don't think 12 months, but if we make it to our anniversary, I'm going to personally mention our investor's name at that anniversary. So.
Well, we'll have our ghost investors. Darren came back and said, that sandwich thing that you just talked about, that's why I worked at McDonald's for a year back in the day.
That's awesome. That's epic.
I mean, and points out is low key hitting the big guys. You kind of lose the low key at that point. And you're absolutely right. You have to choose what your definition of a big guy is, as they found out with the pipeline.
Well, some of those can be big guys just to a community, not to the public, right? So if I can go into the dark web and say, I knocked out this one, and there's not necessarily public attribution and all this bravissimo and cockiness, then I can still win that inside. Now, will there be, active agents from the feds and from internal research companies? Yeah, I definitely would wager that we have to live compromised. Just like I tell companies when I was on the good guy side, live like you're compromised. Live like the feds are watching. Live like the things you're doing have some attribution, and you'll be much more cognizant to focus on limiting the risk of that, right? Like if it's just George and the missile, I'm fine. It didn't come to my house, right?
Yeah.
And so the limit of that is to try to find burner individuals probably as we go that can kind of take some of that fall, if you will. And
I gotta find a really hard and deep cave because it took them a really long time. It took them a really long time to get the guy on the other side. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
no,
I'm
I
happy that they
understand.
did, but like, dude was
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
lam for a long
It's a hot
time.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with, Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, you can live a little better than that too. It might not be spider holy. It might be, just move around a lot. But
Ghost investor Brent says, "Have you seen George's missiles?"
oh Lord, yeah, no, I have not.
No. No.
Go on record. Nuh-uh.
And I'm not even adding, I have not, I'm just saying no.
Oh, I love Raymond. That's funny. I digress. Yeah.
But it's just good. It's good to point out that, I mean, everybody always looks back in their past and says, well, instead of going to do this, I could have, alternate reality George could have done this, and I could have been a drug kingpin, right? I mean, selling soda at school, I sold, bags of drugs. I know it's ridiculous, but I'm just saying. But I mean, this is the people who are on the come up, right? The young people that are coming in, into what could be their professional career.
Yeah.
Some of them probably are in the middle of making decisions like this, right? When it's so easy to do the wrong thing and make money.
Now, let's actually make it simpler. There are some countries where they would be raised to think that this is not an evil thing. This is actually a noble thing because the United States, we're the evil empire, we're the this, we're the that, and we've made all this money by taking advantage.
It's not even that. You don't even have to go that far in rhetoric. Think of it this way. Just because we choose to think of private citizenry and private ownership of companies, and that means they have some sovereignty, they have their own data. Another country that doesn't, and you grow up in a world where everything is a right from your leaders, and everything you do and company you make is owned, and they can tell them to turn on MFA because they can just tell them, or you don't show up at work anymore and you're not that person. And so the difference is they actually see it as, we don't see a difference between espionage and what we're doing in our world, because we're just fighting for China. We're just fighting for our country, and we're just so anyways, I think that the conversation gets into, they genuinely don't feel like they're doing the wrong thing.
Right. And Brent, you're good point. Depending upon the perspective, everybody can think that they're being exploited by everybody else.
No. Yeah, we're doing it too. We're just trying to limit that to less private citizenry. And much more government aspect. But yes, 100% Brent.
So cool. We are reaching the top of the hour. Does anybody? First of all, my question is: thank you to Matt, and some thank you to George.
Oh man, he's got a raw deal on this missile.
You know what? I think it's because Bob saw that cheesesteak picture from yesterday, and he really wanted one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to send him.
I still think it was a Chick-fil-A that was photoshopped. I gotta say,
Chick-fil-A, Philly. I was trying to make a joke. It fell apart on me. It's all right.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
But I appreciate, when started talking about doing this thing, you guys were the ones, and George, I'm just glad it worked out that you could join us at the last minute. So that was cool. And thanks to anybody who's watching George's gig for joining us as well. Feedback for people: was this interesting? Was this worthwhile? I think we had a ball doing it.
It was fun. Was totally fun. Raymond actually popped in and said, "How can we find these long outstanding vulnerabilities in Linux and Windows?" I mean, that's probably a longer conversation, but it's here's the reality, right? I'm sure Matt, you saw the Windows one that came out, right, where anybody could get into a Windows 10 machine, right?
Yeah. I think the point is that, gosh, all right, like, so every time anybody played sports and you go out and you're going to play baseball, yeah? And so, okay, now I need to hit the ball, I need to hit it in bounds enough, and I need to run to first base. That's what you learn day one. But as you get better, you understand that if I can put the ball here, I can get here, and this guy's there, therefore this makes this, and that guy's strengths this, and that guy's... And all I'm saying is that as you start focusing on your own cybersecurity operations inside your company, right, as if I'm talking to your companies as companies, and saying, I need to look at this, I need to find vulnerabilities, I need to find ways to limit risk, you'll get better. You'll understand now that you should force someone from first to second, or that you should, whatever it is, right? And I'm not a baseball guy, but I'm just trying to throw out the analogy. So the point is that, I think as you focus on it more, you'll do more vuln scans. You'll actually hire people to do pen tests that are just trying to attack, that are researchers, and you might fund their research career by asking them to do that. And I would just say you'll get better at it, in my opinion, as time goes, and you'll find it faster. But
we have people saying we have people going off the grid. So I think that we'll end it there. We're all going off the grid now, Bob.
No, I'm staying on and just living compromised. I just
You
changed
got
my.
it.
I
There is
actually
a
do have
certain
two
truth to
identities,
that.
right? An outside ring, inside ring. It's crazy, but
Cool. All right. Well, guys, thank you much. Really appreciate you joining us. And everybody who tuned in for this or watching it, thank you, because it would have been real weird if it was just three of us.
yeah. And if you are watching this, there is some intention for us to make this a bit of a series and continue along the progressive journey of this company as it continues to go. So pay more attention if you're on my channel watching this down the road. This could turn into kind of a series, I think.
Yeah, we actually, before we even had this, we were talking sequel.
Yeah, we were. And Brent, our investor, anybody that's an OG investor actually has priority shares and absolutely can be in on every conversation as we update quarterly. So later investors, maybe not as good, right? Maybe not as good of a number.
Raymond, don't bring the missile right away, man. You just gotta just be careful. You know, you want me to stick around for a while so that they can find me first.
Well,
right?
and then we realized that George actually secretly rented an apartment somewhere, put his server there, and proxied all of his traffic from his other house out of that completely, so that when the missile hit, he had it as an early warning sign. So George is smarter than he looks on the surface. But
That explains the text I got from my wife saying she subletted our basement.
I didn't know it was devious. Jeez, this just took a dark turn, man.
And with that,
I've seen a server in the bathroom, Brent. I have. It's horrible. I literally sat in front of one in a switch in a nursing home, and it was all up in the corner on the top of the water heater. I was like, this just has all kinds of bad on it right now.
It's not good.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you all very much for coming and listening, and thanks to all of our investors. Catch you all later.
Have you guys here on board at Beard Inc.